Hello, gorgeous people! Are you ready for a trip down memory lane to everyone's childhood favorite channel, Nickelodeon? Well, buckle up your seatbelts, as today we are going to dive into some juicy gossip about the famous Nickelodeon Studios that's sitting there all abandoned like in Florida. Although the question remains, what really made the famous studio abandoned? Back in the late 1980s, there was this epic showdown brewing in Central Florida, along with Disney and Universal both flexing their creative muscles, gearing up to unleash something huge. When the dust settled, Universal Studios Florida emerged, and it was all about bringing the magic of movies to life. But the real deal was Nickelodeon Studios. It was like the ultimate clubhouse for kids, the world's first HQ for everything slime-tastic and wacky. A place where Double Dare dreams came true, where you could catch a glimpse of Clarissa explaining it all, or even witness the antics of those Rugrats. It wasn't just a theme park attraction, it was a special place where the magic happened right before your eyes. But as all good things go, it was short-lived. By the mid-2000s, Nickelodeon Studios bid farewell, leaving behind a trail of nostalgia and empty sound stages. For years, it sat there, a relic of a golden era of TV. In the mid-80s in Florida, the Sunshine State was about to get even brighter with some major players gearing up to shake things up. In one corner, we had the powerhouse of fantasy, Walt Disney Company, already rocking 2 theme parks in Florida. And in the other corner, ready to rumble, was Universal Studios, Hollywood's rebellious sibling, gearing up to build its first theme park outside of Tinseltown. Disney had big plans. A sprawling live-action and animation studio paired with a theme park. Meanwhile, Universal was cooking up its own magic. A combo of a production studio and a theme park. Because why settle for one when you can have both? The stage was set for what they called the new Hollywood of the South. Cheaper production costs, more attractions, and a whole lot of buzz. It was Disney versus Universal, a rivalry as fierce as Mickey versus Minions. But then, in swoops Nickelodeon, that kid-friendly TV network with shows like Double Dare and Mr. Wizard's World. They were like, hold up guys, we need in on this action. See, Nickelodeon was spread out all over North America, filming shows here, there, and everywhere. They needed a home base, a central hub, a place to call their own. Enter Universal Studios Florida. In 1988, the deal was sealed. Nickelodeon and Universal joined forces. Nickelodeon got a sweet setup in Florida, a big administration building and 2 shiny sound stages, flanked by what they called B-17 in the middle. It was like the ultimate clubhouse for TV kids, a place where slime flowed like water and laughter echoed through the halls. Sure, it was a last-minute addition, but boy, was it a game changer. Now, Nickelodeon had a home, Universal had a draw for the kiddos, and Florida? Well, Florida just got a whole lot cooler. On June 7th, 1990, Universal Studios Florida flung open its gates, and alongside it, Nickelodeon Studios Florida burst onto the scene like a rainbow-colored explosion. Imagine you're standing in front of Nickelodeon Studios, and it's like the 90s just threw up all over the place. In the best possible way. The facade is screaming with those vibrant in-your-face colors that define the Nickelodeon aesthetic. It's playful, it's fun, and it's impossible to miss. As you stroll through the courtyard, you're greeted by Nickelodeon-themed benches and the iconic Slim Geyser, which was revealed in all its slimy glory later that year. But if you turn your gaze just a smidge beyond the photo ops and the gift shop, you'll spot something a bit odd, a giant empty field, and yep, there's the parking lot. Those trees aren't exactly doing the best job of hiding it, but who cares? The real magic happens once you step inside. During the early 90s, Nickelodeon was the coolest thing on TV. The studio's opening telecast was like the Super Bowl of kids' TV, and they knew how to hype it up. Commercials aired all over America, tempting kids to visit and get a peek behind the scenes at Nickelodeon. They even marketed themselves within their own shows, showing off the studio, hosting special events, and dropping hints about where they were filming. One of the most epic moments was the 1992 time capsule burial.
The day we're going to take this time capsule right here and stick it into the ground.
Kids gathered up all sorts of pop culture items, sealed them away, and said, "See you in 2042, hosted by the one and only Mike Malley, who made bold predictions about future kids always being able to visit. Wishful thinking, maybe, but Nickelodeon was so popular at the time that even Universal Studios guests couldn't resist the allure. But as time passed, reality started kicking in. It turns out convincing people to move to Central Florida for TV production wasn't as easy as they thought. Sure, production was cheaper without pesky union regulations, but finding skilled talent willing to relocate? Not so much. Most folks just flew in for filming, making things complicated. Directors started taking their shows elsewhere, and the logistics of running a theme park alongside an active studio got messy. Universal Studios Florida wasn't alone in the struggle. Disney faced similar challenges with their MGM studios, dealing with never-ending guests and, yep, the never-ending rain on those metal sound stages. So what did they do? They started shifting focus. Disney began building attractions away from the backlot theme, and Universal expanded like crazy. By the late 90s, Universal Studios Florida was changing its tune. They ditched the studio tram tour, started focusing on IP-based attractions, and said goodbye to on-site filming of high-profile shows. Nickelodeon Studios became the main attraction for seeing real production, but even that started drying up. Producers and directors wanted to move to sunny California, where the action was. In 1997, Nickelodeon bought a theater in LA and started transferring productions there. Meanwhile, they had to let go of some Florida staff. Animation was becoming a big deal, but Florida didn't have the facilities for it. Universal Studios Florida was losing money, and their studio space was sitting idle. They tried subleasing, but they were stuck, until at least 2005. Despite the struggles, Nickelodeon Studios remained a popular spot. Even as the park shifted away from its original theme, visitors still flocked to get a glimpse of their favorite Nickelodeon shows in action. By the early 2000s, Nickelodeon Studios in Florida was feeling a bit like a deflated balloon at a party that had been going on for way too long. Production was slowing down, folks were getting laid off left and right, and Universal's Islands of Adventure, their shiny new theme park, didn't exactly set the world on fire. Add to that the tourism slump after 2001, and Universal was in a bit of a pickle. Nick Studios Florida was bleeding money faster than you could say SpongeBob SquarePants, and it wasn't doing much for the network either. With fewer shows being filmed there, the studio tour became about as exciting as watching paint dry, especially since they actually did paint the place in 2004 after Hurricane Charlie left its mark. Things got so desperate that Nickelodeon started auctioning off props. It was clear that this place was about as relevant as a beeper in 2005. However, it still had a place in theme parks, like with that Jimmy Neutron ride and water play area at Universal Hollywood. But the Florida studios were like that old toy in the back of the closet fun once, but now just collecting dust. By early 2005, it was obvious that Nickelodeon wasn't renewing their contract. So, on April 30th, 2005, Nickelodeon Studios Florida closed its doors for good, ending a 15-year run that was about as wild as a slime-filled game show. Over the next year, the studio slowly lost its Nick branding. The administrative building went from Nickelodeon to Who Dis. The sound stages lost their Nick flair, and even the iconic Slime Geyser got the boot. But Universal wasn't about to let all that prime real estate go to waste. In November 2006, they announced that Stage 18 would be transformed into the Sharp Aquos Theater, home to the Blue Man Group, those bald blue dudes who could drum up a storm. Preparations were quick, with Stage 18 painted blue and a massive Blue Man Group mural slapped on the wall. The theater opened its doors on June 6, 2007, ushering in a new era of entertainment. And what about that iconic Nickelodeon time capsule from 1992?
To be here today. Today is G-Day. That's right, G-Day, the day we're going to take this time capsule right here and stick it into the ground.
Well, after its stint buried at the Florida studios, it got moved to the Nickelodeon Suites Resort, where it chilled until 2016 when the hotel got a makeover and became a Holiday Inn. After that, it jetted off to the animation studios in California, where it's probably living its best life, rubbing shoulders with SpongeBob and the gang. Following the opening of Blue Man Group, Nickelodeon did actually return to Universal Studios Florida for a brief period in 2008, utilizing the larger sound stages behind the old studios for the filming of My Family's Got Guts. Once the show wrapped, though, it would be the last time Nickelodeon would produce anything from Universal Studios in Florida.
Home of the only action sports fantasy show on television, My Family's Got Guts!
While Stage 18 was now home to this new Blue Man Group show, Stage 19 and the middle iconic Nickelodeon administrative building, well, they were just left essentially abandoned. Neither were removed or really altered in any significant way from the outside. They just got a very bland white and blue paint job. Though curiously, the orange railings were actually left as they were not being painted to blue until 2013, but inside it's a different story altogether. From as early as 2006, people started sneaking in and discovering everything just as it was left. Giant props, sets, you name it, all still hanging out like it was yesterday. Even the admin offices, which used to be these quirky themed spaces, were frozen in time. Adam the Woo documented the whole thing, capturing the eerie atmosphere of abandoned creativity. Remember that escalator room? Used to be bathed in Florida sunshine, decorated with wild thornberries cutouts and murals. Well, now it's entirely silent, empty, a ghost of its former self. Nickelodeon branding still plastered everywhere, giving that unmistakable 90s vibe. And let's not forget the equipment rooms, dressing rooms, and hallways, all left untouched since the day they closed shop. Ren and Stimpy artwork still lining the walls, gathering dust like it's going out of fashion. Sure, Universal rented out some spaces for events, but the admin area? Nah, that was a time warp zone, stuck in the past like a stubborn stain. Finally, in 2015, Universal Studios decided to give the place a facelift, investing a cool $1 million to bring it up to modern standards. They ripped out escalators, said goodbye to old murals, and got the ball rolling on renovations. Fast forward to 2009 when Rip Ride Rocket crashed into the scene, squeezing right up against stage 18. Then in 2012, Sharp Aquos backed out of sponsoring the Blue Man Group, so the facade got a fresh coat of paint. But come 2020, the pandemic hit, and Universal Studios had to shut down, taking Blue Man Group down with it. And just like that, Cirque du Soleil filed for bankruptcy, leaving Blue Man Group out in the cold. By 2021, it was official. Blue Man Group wasn't coming back. Now, the former Nick Studios area is like a ghost town. The street leading there is a dead end with a gate, and beyond it, you'll find a desolate area that seems like it's stuck in limbo. But hey, the buildings aren't totally abandoned. The Dave School for Animation and Visual Effects has taken up residence in Stage 25, and who knows, maybe Building 17 has some secret tenants too. But gone are the days of regular folks wandering around. Nowadays, you can only catch a glimpse from the balcony of the Hard Rock restaurant or during special park events. All that's left of the once vibrant Nick Studios are some lime green tiles in the bathrooms, reminding us of its colorful past. Nickelodeon Studios was the big cheese in Florida's production scene, but sadly, the dream of Hollywood East just didn't pan out. Disney's MGM, now Hollywood Studios, and Universal ditched the backlot theme, opting for IP-based attractions instead. Universal kept their sound stages though, with Nickelodeon leading the charge as the Hollywood of the South. But let's face it, the logistics and costs just didn't add up in the long run. The enthusiasm for Florida's Hollywood faded, and the studios became relics of a bygone era. It's a bummer for us Nick fans who grew up with those awesome shows, but hey, at least we've got the memories. So stay tuned for more Nickelodeon updates, and don't forget to hit the subscription button and let us know about your opinions in the comment section below.